Hello guys and welcome back to the channel for the third time today and final. I bring the review of this week's chapter of One Piece 827 of its name Totland. And my god, I don't even let's follow along. First off, we begin the chapter with, as always, the cover, and we have a very strange cover from Kamabaka Kingdom. Preparation for what? Ivankov shouldn't even be in Kamabaka Kingdom anymore because he was summoned to the revolutionaries meeting, unless the revolutionaries meeting is actually going to take place in Kamabaka Kingdom. Imagine if after fleeing from Baltigo, the revolutionaries went straight to Kamabaka Kingdom. And that's why they are making preparations. I just love making theories. I made this one right now. I was seeing this and I was like, wait, the revolutionaries fled from Baltigo. Ivankov shouldn't be in Kamabaka Kingdom anymore. Maybe, and that's how it is. Imagine that. Having the revolutionaries meeting in Kamabaka. I believe that some characters wouldn't be happy for that, but they are revolutionaries as well, therefore they must be respected as such. Anyway, starting the chapter, we finally get a step closer to Whole Cake Island. And we get to an island, and apparently Peckham says that, oh, I just hijacked this ship, the enemy's in there, I got them captured. But, you know what, I have some sweets for Mama. And he manages to fool the guards like that, and he's able to infiltrate the Straw Hats in what is heaven for all of us. All of us have dreamed of this moment ever since we were children. Who wouldn't want to live in a town made of chocolate, entirely made of chocolate? Oda has read the minds of little children and our own and his own probably, and he made a town made entirely out of chocolate. It's a dream come true. Imagine waking up feeling hungry and you could just take a bit of your chandelier or your end table or even your bed. If you have a bed with those things on the head, you can just reach your arm and pop, take a bit of chocolate and have a snack in the morning. Of course, there's all sorts of diseases, there's all sorts of problems acquainted with the overly consumption of chocolate, but let us imagine that such things would not afflict us if there would be a town made entirely out of chocolate. The most interesting fact, besides the fact that the town is fully made of chocolate, is the fact that it sports a variety of members from different races. We have normal humans, we have Longleg, we have minks, and we have what appears to be a sort of gnome. I would dare to say that it's a gnome. It's not as small as a Tontata, but it's not as high as a human, so it might be some sort of gnome. But this is explained further by Peckhams. But before that, we see the new outfits that Nami, Carrot, and even Brook slightly. But no, Brook is still wearing his old attire in here. But I just love this guy. Nami's there trying the clothes, and Brook is just like, so beautiful panties. He doesn't even say anything. He just puts himself in there. He just nonchalantly just puts his hand, sips on the tea, and is like, oh, I'm looking at heaven. And as a result, he gets a big pile of fists in his head. And I don't know how you call that in English. So, but you know how it is. He gets pretty beaten up. And now Peckham starts explaining that the reason why there's so many races, so many people from different races gathered in Totland is because Big Mom's dream is to create an utopia where people from all races can come together without any sort of discrimination, prejudice, or segregation. And in this picture now, we see more minks, we see a mermaid, we see what I believe is a tone tartar. We see some two little guys with a little. I don't know if it's hair, head. I don't know if they're tone tartars because you don't see the tail. Might be some other kind of dwarfs. We see another long leg. We see what I believe is a snake neck, which is one of the races that is still left to be introduced, one of the possible many races that is still left to be introduced in the world of One Piece officially, but that we've seen the name before in the Sabondi arc, where we see the list of prices for each race in the auction house. There was a race called Snake Neck, and I believe that that long haired lady, it's probably a snake neck lady, and Oda doesn't want to show that right now, so he hid all her face, all her head and neck with hair. So I believe that it is a snake neck. And there's actually 34 islands dotted all around Whole Cake Island, and they are collectively known as Totland and read as Country of 10,000. And each of those 34 islands is ruled by a chancellor. This one in particular is ruled by Chancellor Chocolate, and the full name of the town is Chocolatown of Cocoa Island. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it probably is. And all the town is made of chocolate. It's a dream come true for everyone. How we wish there was such a city, there was such a town in our world. I believe it wouldn't last long, but it would need to be rebuilt and rebuilt over and over again. So, but the most surprising thing is people can consume all the chocolate they want, except the tile chocolates, which they use for the roof. It's very interesting because yes, you can eat a wall and then you can rebuild the wall, but how can they not rebuild the roofs? Is it because the tiles that make the roofs are actually harder to make, or is it just because Peckham says that all forms of precipitation hit the town very often? Uh, so as to avoid problems, because if they could, they probably can rebuild it. But imagine that a person eats 10 chocolate tiles and it leaves a hole in the roof, and they are going to repair it, but then it starts raining. If it is unpredictable like that, it makes sense. If not, well, it's just a rule. But and now the other thing is, windows are under the jurisdiction of the Candy Chancellor and pillars the Biscuit Chancellor. So does this mean that they cannot be eaten by members of Chocolatown? Or they're also able to be eaten? Because if you eat a pillar, well, if it is the master pillar, there comes your house down. Windows, well, you get a little bit chilly in the night. So I don't know, but it seems a very interesting city, and a new adventure in a new place begins, and Luffy is already up to some mischief. Out of the blue, someone screams, "It's a crime, someone just ate a cafe." And I was like, first of all, someone just ate. Okay, Luffy, no doubt about that. But when I read a cafe, wait a second, a cafe as in like a whole building? And then we see Luffy and Chopper just full to the brim with chocolate and other sweet things. And there's already a police officer trying to get them in jail. And when they say that they have a good reason for having eaten the cafe, they say with the most jackass face, it was too delicious not to eat. And they are like with the most happy face, closed eyes, and I'm like, oh my god, so good. I'm anxious to see this in the anime. It will be so funny to see. I can't wait for the anime to finish Dressrosa. I said this in the last chapter. I just can't wait for the anime to reach to Zou and then to Whole Cake Island. But unfortunately, it will still take a while. And now, out of nowhere, a flying carpet appears, singing as everything does in Big Mom's territory, and he appears like carpet, carpet. Yes, a carpet singing, as if it wasn't enough to have a singing ship, a singing door, and a singing carpet, and everything that sings in the end of the chapter. Even an hamburger sings. Burger. I mean, everything sings. But someone appears, someone that we already know and were not expecting, Miss Pudding herself. Soon to be Miss Van Smoke Pudding. Well, I don't know if she will take Sanji's family name or not. I don't know if Japanese marriages work like that. So, well, if I don't know if Big Mom even allows her to be Van Smoke Pudding instead of Charlotte Pudding. So I don't know. But she appears saying that how could they leave so much to waste? She appears to save Luffy and Chopper. This was the first thing that kinda bugged me a little bit because at first I thought, okay, she knows who they are and she's gonna turn them in. But then later in the chapter, when Luffy is about to introduce himself as Luffy, the man who will become the king of the pirates, she makes a surprised face. And I was like, okay, chop that theory down. So we see the reason why she saved them. It's because they say that her cafe was too good not to eat. But before that, we are introduced to two owners of the cafe Caramel, Nitro the jelly, which appears to be this jello-like stuff clinging off her shoulder with a hat, and we are introduced to the carpet Labian the carpet. So, and yes, the owner herself, Lady Charlotte Pudding. And she's able to convince everyone that Chopper and Luffy were actually dismantlers that were in charge of taking down the cafe before it expired. And so, conversation goes, and he congratulates her for the marriage, and he says that everyone in town wishes her nothing but the best, from the bottom of their hearts. It's it's strange. And bear with me for a while. I still don't think that this is as colorful as it is being painted. Because it's Big Mom, it's a Yonko. We see that she can be very mean. At the end of this chapter, we see some things that her subordinates do to get the most basic of things: eggs, milk, flour. And so, to have a city like this, and let us not forget that somehow she knows that Luffy is already in Chocolatown. But Pudding just seems to be a really sweet girl. She seems to be a very innocent and sweet girl. Really, genuinely. She doesn't look like that sort of girl that hides her feelings and then shows something, but then it's another on the end. I actually thought that when we first were introduced to her picture, where she was like all sweet and things, all innocent, and I was like, that's a trap, my dear Sanji, that's a trap. But apparently it isn't so, because she saved She just saved Luffy and Chopper without any reason. But anyway, we'll see how it is. All of a sudden, another interesting thing happens. A mink, a wolf mink it appears, spots Pedro and calls him Captain Pedro. Yes, Pedro was the leader of Nekomamushi's guard, so it makes perfect sense for him to be called Captain. But I thought of another thing. What if Pedro sailed the seas before, as a captain himself? Imagine that. That's how Peckham's became a member of Big Mom's crew. Pedro sailed out of Zoe with a few minks and Peckhams, and they could have come into contact with Big Mom, and either she offered them something and they decided to stay, but not Pedro, because he thought, well, maybe she's pulling our legs, or he just said, no, I want to go back to my home country, and she said, be on, be on your merry way then. And then the rest of his crew remained there because he says, I would, I would not want you to alert the others. So there are others that were either part of that crew or part of Pedro's squad back in Zou. But when Nami asks if he knows people in that town, he says, I tell you about it later. So Pedro is hiding something, and I'd like to believe that it was actually that he was a captain of a ship before, either before Nekomamushi and Inuarashi step out to go with Roger, or sometime in the between, in those 20 years that passed since Roger's execution and the current storyline. And now they go to Pudding's house, where we finally know the reason why she saved them. It was because they said that the cafe was too delicious not to eat. And we get to know the full recipe. We get to know the full recipe of the of the chocolate she made, and she just seems to be a simple girl. She likes to make chocolate. She likes to cook. She's very simple. Why I wouldn't say that she's the daughter of a pirate, let alone the pirate it is. Let alone I would never, if Oda would come to me and said, look at this character. She's related to an important character in the One Piece world. Of all the characters you know, who would you put her as being related to? I would never say that she's a Big Mom's daughter. I would say probably, well, she could be from Amazon if it was not for her giddy up. Or I could just say no, she's like a girl from any old town that you decide to draw in the nearby future, and she's just that. She seems like a nice girl. She'll probably help the Straw Hats, and I would say probably Sanji will follow over the hills for her. That part I would get correct. But I would never guess that Putin is a daughter of one of Big Mom's daughters. Then again, there's always the chance that one mighty day she reveals herself to be a little more violent than what she is. But now, after this chapter, I wouldn't like that to happen. I would like that Pudding would remain the sweet and innocent girl that she appears to be. Because if we think about it, the older daughters of Big Mom might be a little bit like her. If they're all daughters. So far, we only have confirmation that there are 35 daughters, being Pudding the 35th. So there is no knowledge of having boys as her sons. So Some of those daughters, I believe the eldest ones, are similar to their mother than the youngest ones, like Purin, like Lola, like probably the one that's Lola's twin that appeared in Capone's ship. They seem to be more friendlier. Yes, Lola and her supposedly twin sister are a little bit more of a nutcase. They are more they have a more explosive personality, but they are still, well, Lola at least has a friendlier personality, and Putin appears to have the same personality. And even Brooke said, "Oh my God, she's just a sweet and general soul," and it is. Putin is like a very sweet person. I just hope that she remains this way. I would very much like to see her evolve as a character like this. And now it comes the moment where Luffy is about to spill the bucket, where he presents himself as Luffy, the man who's going to be the Pirate King. And just before he says that, Nami manages to shut his mouth, but not before Pudding realizes something. And although it's not further in this chapter, we all know that she's already heard what it is and what he aims to be. And probably the next chapter will pick up on that. Who knows? But for me, starting this chapter, starting this page 17, made the whole chapter because, my friends, welcome once again to Whole Cake Island. And finally, we see Big Mom in her full glory. I gotta say, she looked bigger when she appeared in Fishman Island. She appeared to have a larger face, a more round and larger face. But now her face is actually more of a conic disposition. It's not as round as it was before, if you'll allow me to search for a little while. That's it, nothing happened. Imagine you had a cut in the video right now and you haven't actually watched me searching anything. So yes, apparently first time she was introduced, her face looked larger. Then again, let us not forget that we are seeing her in a perspective manner. When she was introduced, she was drawn in a way, and the other character was Boban, I believe, was drawn in a way to make him look way smaller and to make her look larger, as so to give that impression that Big Mom is really the Big Mom. And then it comes the part where we see what the Big Mom pirates are capable of doing just to acquire eggs. We see apparently a lady wielding a sword with a very, very big hat. We see I want to say steamy punk looking guy who has managed to acquire the flower, and we see, I don't know if it could be a mink or just a little woman or little old lady riding on a crane, which who managed to acquire the fruits. So for just these simple things, they pillaged and killed people, just like pirates would. But why? I mean, okay, she's a pirate, she's a Yonko, but precisely because she's a Yonko, she could have and she should have other ways to acquire these things. But then again, this is to introduce the character, and it does an awesome job at that with this larger page to end the chapter where everything in Whole Cake Island is alive and singing. Heck, even the sun is alive and speaking. Of course, it's not the real sun, but still, what fruit is this? What devil fruit is this? What magic is this? In the last saga, Dressrosa, we had the toys, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's a fruit that turns people into toys." What is it? What is it going to be now? A fruit that gives life to nature and things like that? To I don't know. But the thing that bugged me the most at the end of this chapter is actually the last two squares in the left side of the page, which is when Big Mom says that I hear he's actually arrived already. That's right, he's here, Straw Hat. So you know that when someone, especially a bad guy in One Piece, calls Luffy's name or calls Straw Hat, things are about to go down. And the fact that Big Mom already discovered that Luffy is already in the island, how could have she discovered? Who told her? Was it Pudding? Was it the police officer? Because he could have realized that it was Luffy. It could have been someone else. So how was she able to know that Luffy has already arrived in Totland? I guess we'll have to wait for the next chapter to find out. And my friends, I hope you have enjoyed this video. This chapter, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it to bits. And I just hope and I just wait for the next chapters because it is official. Luffy and the others have arrived in Big Mom's territory. And from now on, kick in the marriage saga, kick in Whole Cake Island saga. I will see you next week with a fresh batch of chapters. I will try not to get as delayed as I was now, but I make no promises. Next week is my last week of internship, so I will be a little bit busy during the day, during the night, but I will try not to delay the videos as much as I did this week. I'm gonna be honest with you, I took the afternoons of this week when I got out of the internship to rest a little bit and to do other things. And so I knew I would have the Friday to rest and take care of the videos, and so I took the shot and I did so. But I will try not to do the same next week, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Once again, share your opinions with me on the comment section below as to what you thought about the chapter. All of them, in fact, not just One Piece, Fairy Tail, Seven Deadly Sins, in their respective videos or in this video. You choose where you comment. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I will see you next week.